Hey, well, I've been asked several times whether you can sharpen a plane iron on the Taylor Toolworks drill press sharpening method. I have kind of my homemade version of it, but it's essentially the same thing. And I have this old hand plane, and this is the front. Actually, that's the raker. But here's my plane iron. It's not in the worst shape, but it's not in great shape either. So I've made a jig back here at a 30-degree angle, and I'm going to attempt to sharpen this to see if indeed you can use this method for sharpening plane irons in pretty short order. So let's find out. And now I'm going to speed this portion up because I'm trying to keep the video as short as possible. I know your time's valuable and I don't want to take up more than I have to. But I will add that the top disc I have 150 grit sandpaper and the bottom I have 220. I've sharpened quite a few chisels on this already, so the paper's already starting to wear down. I really should have changed it out to fresh paper for this video, but I was being lazy, so we'll move through this. And so my bigger concern was actually whether I could keep the plane blade this wide actually square. But I was quite surprised. It actually is very square. The jig held it perfectly, and that worked out. So we'll just move on to the next disc, which this disc is 400 grit on the bottom and the stropping wheel on the top. And then the process of sharpening this actually took 4 minutes in real time, about 4 minutes and 10 seconds to be exact. But the plane was pretty much a butter knife to start with. Normally they wouldn't be this dull, and that would have taken way longer on a diamond stone or a whetstone. So I was pretty happy with the result. It did actually cut some paper. Thankfully, I didn't cut my fingers for this video, so you can keep your eyes open, but I probably should have cut away from my fingers. That went better than I thought it would. I was a little worried I wouldn't be able to get it square, but the jig held it perfectly, and it is indeed actually, I don't know if you can see it or not, but that is perfectly square. So let's get it back in this thing and test it out and see how well it actually planes even in this old plane. And while I'm reassembling this, a little side note, that little nub in the front of this plane is actually, you bump it with a hammer or a mallet, and that actually loosens the blade or retracts the blade a little bit into the opening. For the longest time, I was naive enough to think maybe that was where a handle was and it just broke off. But you can either bump the back of the plane or that little nub, and that loosens the blade up. All right, well, hopefully that answered that question. This 30-degree jig, and this system did actually work on this plane iron. This is a 2 1/4 inch wide blade, so you would definitely want to do the 6-inch version of this versus the 5-inch. You would have a harder time with it. But it does actually work on plane irons, so hopefully that answers that question. And hey, thanks for watching. See you next time.